What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk about the big sad, and the big sad is seasonal affective disorder, which is a type of depression related to changes in the seasons. Most commonly, the fall and winter seasons, with sort of late fall or autumn, depending on the country you live in. Being when these symptoms sort of start to present themselves and gradually getting more and more severe throughout winter until it comes back to being springtime and your mental, like your headspace and your emotional state come back to what you would consider your normal state. But in the lesser case, you can also get what they refer to as summer onset seasonal affective disorder, which is exactly the same, except that it's in late spring as it starts to get into the warmer months, which, considering that regardless of which hemisphere you're in, that is when the big long school holidays are. If you're still in school and you have seasonal affective disorder with the summer onset type, it's gotta suck. Like, a lot. The amount of FOMO that you would have, I can't even imagine. I'm so glad that in a weird twist of irony, I'm so glad that I'm just depressed all of the time, because I don't know if I could just do an on-off sort of thing. That doesn't, but we'll get to that. But in either case, whether you're a winter onset or a summer onset, the signs and symptoms can include feelings of listlessness, sadness, and just generally being down most of the time, like nearly every day. So you might have an hour or 2 hours, if you're lucky, where you just feel really good, or you might have a whole day where you feel really good, but the rest of that week you're just like, it's not for you. And that's fine. Celebrate those good days. But on the bad ones, try and find something to look back on as a positive. Look at your dark storm cloud and try to find its particular silver lining. Where was it? What did it look like? And how did it make you feel at the time? As opposed to looking back on it, how do you feel about it now? Because at the time, it might not seem like a massive thing, and then later on in the day, you'll realize that, oh, actually, that was really good that happened today, because getting that news or seeing that person kind of made up for this shitty thing that made the rest of the day just sort of upsetting. You might also lose interest in activities that you once enjoyed, as well as you may also have low energy and feel sluggish. I'm going to bring these 2 points up at the same time because I feel like they're two sides of the same coin, essentially, in that the losing interest in activities is kind of a mental space one, as opposed to the low energy being a physical form one. So if we're looking at the losing interest, I myself have lost interest in reading. I would still love to read, I just don't have the mental space for it. Hence why I refer to it as mental space. But the low energy one could be a similar thing of you might have really enjoyed doing a particular physical activity or playing a particular sport, but because of your lack of energy, you've lost interest in doing it because of your physical limits of your of having low energy. Now that low energy could be caused by symptom number 4, which is sleeping difficulties, whether that's too much or not enough, or a bit of both, and I will touch on how you can have a bit of both in a second. because you can entirely have a bit of both. Sleeping disorders do not discriminate, and neither should you. But yeah, sleeping problems can have quite a profound effect on how your particular symptoms come in. Realistically, insomnia is probably, in all of my like research into mental illness to try and be as educated and advocate as I possibly can be, I think insomnia's gotta be the worst one, because it's tied to just about everything. Like, you might get diagnosed with this one thing, I can almost guarantee at some point insomnia is going to enter your life, or some form of sleep difficulty is going to enter your life because of that one thing. He is the friend that all the mental illnesses love to invite around for a party. It's just a problem that the hosts, us, hate him the most. We kind of need him to go away in order to actually deal with the issue at hand. You may also experience heightened cravings for carbohydrate-rich foods, which could also lead to overeating and weight gain. Now, when we're looking at the carbohydrates, basically we're looking at sugars, and obviously the simpler the better for cravings. But if you're just having that one day in like a month sort of thing, where all you want is a big old bowl of pasta, that even though that is carbohydrate rich, it's not what we're talking about. Because you can easily be like, I want to have a big bowl of pasta, but I'm also going to try and make a conscious effort to overcome this. And you know, sure, you can have your big bowl of pasta, but you can also make that big bowl of pasta healthy. You know what I mean? You can't really make a party-sized bag of lollies healthy, or like an entire block of chocolate. There's no way of making that healthy, and then that's more what we're talking about. And also, it's excessive cravings. Having a craving here and there is, I think, kind of natural. I think you're allowed to have your cravings. That's fine, but the excessive cravings for particularly carbs is definitely something tied to depression, just in general. Difficulty concentrating is another one. This one is one that is a little bit harder to sort of be like, oh, okay, so we've got this and this and this, which all sort of point towards this, but it's the difficulty concentrating that says, no, it's the big sad. Not really how that works, because it could just be that that person has ADHD and MDD, which is major depressive disorder. It used to be called clinical depression, but they changed the name to make it sound like a bigger deal, because, you know, that's going to help the generally associated anxiety go right away. But yeah, anyway, the official names are what they are. But yeah, having trouble concentrating can be a fun one, because it's basically the low energy for your brain. And I think for me, that's where the reading just doesn't, like, I a little bit of a difficulty concentrating on pages with the words in like a size 12 font, and it's all over. Between the losing interest in activities I once enjoyed, which was reading, and difficulty concentrating, until I can actually beat depression, I don't know that I'm going to be reading a whole heap, which is sad, because nothing gives me greater joy than spending an hour or two just looking through bookshops. I love the smell of books. so good. It's so good. But I just don't have the capacity to read them at the moment. I'm hoping to change that. I do know that there's a big old Dinex in Sydney. I'm very, very eager to go be able to visit that whenever I want. And I do know that they have things like the Grimm's Fairy Tales and the 1001 Arabian Nights books, which I'm very interested to read. So it could be a case of I just read myself a little fairy tale before bed every night. Why not? And then like the original versions of them too, so it's going to be really interesting. And hopefully I can sort of ease my way back in that way. The last two, we are losing battery power. The last two are feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, and guilt, and the thoughts of unaliving, which we don't wish on anybody at all. Even if we hold ill will towards you, we don't wish that you have thoughts of unaliving. Yeah. I know I've been trying to keep this video kind of positive, but with the seriousness of those thoughts and the fact that there are people who feel like nobody will listen to them if they try to express their emotions and therefore act on those thoughts, I don't really want to make it seem like I'm making light of the severity of that particular symptom. If you are at the point where that is a symptom you are experiencing, please seek help. Anyway, moving on. So the difference between winter onset and summer onset SAD is kind of a one-for-one. So you'll either have the oversleeping or the trouble sleeping insomnia. You'll either have excessive cravings and sort of put on a bit of weight, or you'll have a very poor appetite and lose a bit of weight. Obviously the weight loss is kind of dependent on how, or gain is entirely dependent on how much you're, like how excessively you're eating or how little you're eating. Like obviously the weight loss is going to go hand in hand with how much you're eating, same as the gain. And then the last one is sort of your emotional and physical sort of energy allotment. You're either going to have a very low amount of energy and be very tired and sluggish, or you're going to have a high amount and then your body's not going to know what to do with it, so it's just going to manifest as being agitated and anxious and irritable. Because mental illness could never give you a high amount of energy and turn that into a good emotion. No, that would take away from its power over you. And obviously, it just wants its power. Now, I did mention before that I was gonna talk about how you can both oversleep and have trouble sleeping. Here's what I mean by it. The world operates on a fixed construct of the clock. Time exists, time exists, and it's all relative. Okay, so to me, it's midnight, but to someone in, say, England or in Italy or whatever, who's like 10 hours behind us, it's, you know, it's, what's that? It's 2 in the afternoon. You know what I mean? We're currently existing on the planet at the same time, but the construct is different because of the shape of the Earth, and therefore our relative position to the sun. So the construct's relative, but time exists. now that we've got the basic physics lesson out of the way, I'll explain the psychology that I'm getting at. Your trouble sleeping could be getting to sleep, and therefore the hour at which you get to sleep is not deemed a normal hour for falling asleep for someone in your time zone. And then the oversleeping part could be that you end up sleeping through alarms if you have them set, which I know I do quite often. I think I have 4 set on my phone, and I usually only hear about 2 of them. It's usually the first one, which sort of is like, you know, the noise that wakes me up in the morning, and then there's the last one. I somehow managed to miss the 2 in the middle. I think it's because it's like, I'm awake, yet turn off, go away, and I roll over, and then in that sort of weird semi-conscious state, I just turn off the other alarms as they appear with no recollection of doing so. It can be fun times. And so in that sense, by sleeping past what could be deemed a normal wake-up time, you're oversleeping. Realistically, you're not having either of these things. You're not having trouble getting to sleep, and you're not oversleeping. You're just in the wrong time zone. Your circadian rhythm is attuned to a different time zone, and that's it. Because if you're falling asleep later and waking up at a later time, chances are the amount of sleep you're getting is still 8 hours. It's just been offset. And that's all it is. That's all it is. So I'm glad I was able to share my own little personal theory with you. You don't have insomnia. You just are not living in the right country. Now, people who have bipolar are at increased risk of seasonal affective disorder. I think this kind of goes without saying. But if seasonal affective disorder is generally described as a depression caused by the changing in seasons, the opposite season would be seasonal affective disorder, but the manic form, therefore giving you a manic episode in summer and a depressive episode in winter, making you bipolar. And that can be exactly what it is. You might have small spikes in your manic and depressive episodes throughout the rest of the year, but generally it could be winter or summer. Really, it's dependent on you as an individual, and how it relates to you, and whether or not you actually experience seasonal affective disorder. But you might find, let's say the winter one, because that's the more common one, you might find that your depressive episodes are more severe then, and it's not just I have a bigger, more longer lasting depressive episode. It could just be that they're more severe. Same frequency, just more severe, and the manic episodes are less so. And then it shifts itself back up to the manic side of things. Again, same frequency, but more severe in the manic episodes, less severe in the depressive. Or, it could be exactly what I stated originally. You just have a bigger, longer lasting depressive episode during sort of the middle of winter, and a bigger, more longer lasting manic episode during the middle of summer. Or vice versa. The point is that the symptoms themselves for your depression and your manic episodes can become more or less intense depending on the season. Now it's normal to have some days when you feel down. I know for me personally, I live on the east coast of Australia, so we get a lot of rain on the coast, and I would just love to have some nice, cool days. I love spring, and I love autumn. Winter I'm kind of okay with. because I can just sort of stay inside and do like all the inside things that I love to do. But generally spring and autumn are the things where I get to go outside and do things. But I'm not a fan of summer in Australia, I must admit, because it gets so excessively hot that it's ridiculous. And then that in turn causes massive thunderstorms to roll in, which I love a good thunderstorm. Silver linings, right? But that also brings an excessive amount of rain. So it's a constant state of like either a week straight of rain or a week straight of temperatures so hot I wish I could peel my skin off because it's one too many layers on my body. Yeah, there's been days where it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go run myself a cool bath to sit in. If you want me, you know where I'll be, and that's it. That's exactly what I'll do. I'll just sit in the bathtub trying to cool off. So yeah, that's me. But no, so it's normal to have days where you feel down, but if you feel down for days at a time and you can't get motivated to do activities you normally enjoy, that's when you sort of need to go see your doctor. Specifically ask to see a psychologist, or at least that you have concerns about whether or not you may be experiencing seasonal affective disorder. Your GP can generally either refer you to somebody or themselves be able to prescribe you some form of medication to help alleviate some symptoms. It's especially important to do that if your sleep patterns and appetite have changed, or if you turn to any form of substances for comfort or relaxation, whether that be alcohol or drugs, or simply just the excessive consumption of a particular type of food. But especially so if you are starting to feel increasingly hopeless and starting to think about unaliving. Some of the specific causes for seasonal, so the specific cause, as if there's one and one only, of seasonal affective disorder remains unknown, but some factors that come into play are what I said before with your circadian rhythms, as well as your serotonin and your melatonin levels. We're going to look at these one at a time. So, your circadian rhythm, the reduced level of sunlight coming into the winter months may cause winter onset, SAD. The decrease in sunlight can disrupt your body's internal clock and lead to feelings of depression because it's dark all the time. Why is this? Whatever. But I also think the opposite's true for summer, and this is why it is. Because generally speaking, it's the summer months where what's that dumb thing called again? Daylight savings. It's when that comes in, as if, the natural lengthening of days in summer wasn't enough for more daylight during the day. So it's nearly 8:30 at night by the time the sun goes down where I live currently. It's ridiculous. Like, let it just be dark already so I can go lie down in bed, make a YouTube video and get a decent night's sleep at the same time. I don't care about how early the sun's gonna rise in the morning. I just want to be able to have a good night's sleep, and if the sun wants to rise while I'm still sleeping, then let it, because at least then I'm unconscious for some of the bloody heat. I can wake up and be like, okay, this is kind of going to be what the temperature's like today. Good to know. At least I can dress accordingly, had a day the other day at work where I thought it was going to be a cool day with some rain, and it ended up being really hot, and there was me looking like an idiot walking around in jeans all day, sweating my hole out. Wasn't fun. So anyway, my rant for daylight savings is over. Let's continue on. Your serotonin and your melatonin levels. Obviously the serotonin is the feel-good one, and melatonin is the sleepy chemical in your brain. A drop in serotonin will affect your mood, obviously, in a negative way, and might play a role in seasonal affective disorder. This can also be because of a reduce in sunlight, and so your circadian rhythm and your serotonin levels are both sort of innately and intricately linked to the natural progression of the sun, and we should just stop trying to force constructs to suit us and try and just adapt to the way nature intends things to be. Please. If your 40 hours a week of work really matter that much to you, then be like, I owe you an extra 5 hours from this week in winter, which I will make up for in summer when there's those hours to make them up. Like, is that so hard? Anyway, elect me for president and that will be the case. I'm joking, I will never run for politics. Your melatonin levels, obviously, if they start dropping, you're gonna have difficulty sleeping. And that may mean that by the time they kick in, you're gonna oversleep into later in the day, which is obviously not a thing we want. Other things that could play a role is any family history with any mental health concerns, particularly any other forms of depression, which obviously includes having MDD or bipolar disorder, or having anyone in your family who have had those, because you are then genetically predisposed to being more at risk. Thanks, genetics. The further away you live from the equator can also play a role, because obviously the further away you are, the more drastic the change between the amount of daylight as opposed in summer as opposed to winter is going to be. The equator is the equator because it's the middle, it's equal at the equator, and then closer to the poles you are, the more susceptible you are to having 6 months of day and 6 months of night, which has got to be the weirdest thing of just do you celebrate New Year when the sun finally sets, or when it finally rises again? Like, when do you celebrate the New Year? Because that's just been a day and a night to you guys, really. I don't know, and I'll never firsthand find that out, because I don't want to live in any place that close to a pole, to be completely honest. And the last one is vitamin D deficiency, which obviously comes from when you are exposed to sunlight. Your skin actually forms, so it's actually produced in your skin when exposed to sunlight. It doesn't actually come in sun rays. It's the sun hits your skin, and as part of your natural defenses against the more harmful effects of that, vitamin D is one of the things that's produced. And obviously it can then help boost your serotonin levels, which will make you feel good. So less sunlight and not getting enough vitamin D from foods and stuff can obviously therefore result in lower vitamin D in the body, which then leads to lower serotonin levels, which leads to lower happy time feelings. And then when you put that with feeling sluggish from not getting enough sleep because you've dropped in melatonin levels, it just spells a whole lot of not fun. Other thing, so some things that it can cause is social withdrawal, issues at school or at work, the abuse of substances, which is a phrasing that I love more than like drug abuse or alcohol abuse, because alcohol is a drug, so they're the same things, but generally when they're talking about drugs, they're talking about like narcotics. But by the same token, sugar is also highly addictive. You know, and not all drugs are illegal. Like, you can get nicotine in cigarettes perfectly legally, if you're of the right age to be able to purchase those things. So yeah, I like substance abuse because it's the catch-all. It's the they pronoun for you know, things that you can put in your body and abuse, because it's, you know, it's not being specific to one. It's just sort of like, I am a substance, just like, you know, I am a person. Refer to me as such. Other mental health disorders such as anxiety or any other eating disorders. So obviously, if you have, this is where it starts to become really fun, because it's like, you know, it's like a Russian nesting doll. But you might have, on the outside, it might just be, you know, your MDD or your bipolar, and you open it up and here's seasonal affective disorder, and you open it up and here's insomnia, you open that one up and here's anxiety, you open that up and here's my eating disorder, and on and on and on and on and on, however many layers your particular onion has. And then right at the core, at most, the most severe one that's underneath pretty much all mental health issues, is unaliving thoughts. Now there is a little paragraph here on the prevention, but I would like you guys to look into this sort of stuff yourself and not just take my word for it. So the link is in the description down below, as well as links to Beyond Blue. I might even leave a link for BetterHelp. Not spawn, but a good service nonetheless. So those links in the description for you as well. And that's all I've got for this video. So if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. While you're up there, might as well go ahead and ring that notification bell as well. Turn on those push notifications so you can stay up to date when I upload new videos. And if you enjoyed this one, please give it a big thumbs up down below. Let me know in the comments section, if you suffer from SAD yourself, what is to you the worst symptom of your particular, how you experience it, because it is different for everybody. What do you feel is the worst symptom for you specifically? Let me know in the comments. Kind of interested to know, yeah, because I want to sort of be able to advocate from a place of knowledge and understanding. So you'll be doing me a favor, and I can also then in turn offer any advice. I've been told I give good advice, so let me know. And until next time, guys, keep your head screwed on.